Welcome back to Talking Tillies. For the first time ever, all three of us here are actually to talk about the results of games. Crazy that it's taken 20 episodes. This is the 20th episode of the show as well. With the breaks, we've currently been doing this for half a year. Crazy. Time flies when you're pretending to be something alongside two awesome people. So thank you for joining me for 20 episodes, guys. And what a way to kick it off, because a 3-0 win in the closing minutes of the game. First half wasn't great. Uh, second half of the second half was a lot better. But for those of you that have been living under a rock in Matilda's football world, we did play on the weekend against Uzbekistan in leg 1 of 2 to qualify for the Olympics. Michelle, how are you this week? How are you feeling after Saturday?
I am good.
Summary. Cody, you were at a wedding. You didn't get to watch the game. How are you feeling after what you've obviously been reading and seeing little bits of? How are we this week?
Yeah, look, definitely trudging along. Nice introduction, although, Josh, there's no talking tillies without you, so we're not the only awesome people here. Give yourself some credit.
I clap myself in the back when I edit and upload everything, guys. It's okay. So, leg 1 of 2 down. 3 goals in hand coming home. Apparently, they don't mean anything in this format either. Away goals, Cody. I know we did mention that last week.
Oh,
Apparently, away goals don't mean anything in Olympic qualifying.
the magic of football's being lost as we
I know.
speak.
So let's start where everyone started with the lineup. There are a few, I think, question marks. A few people unaware of how jersey numbers work as well that are maybe new to the game. So we'll probably just touch on this to start things off. Caitlin Torpy is going to be wearing 20 again come Wednesday. 20, unlike the US or the is it CONCACAF they play in? No. What are they playing? What is it? Was I right? The US
Yeah,
team?
US and CONCACAF.
CONCACAF.
CONCACAF? Yeah, cool. I was right.
I
I
missed
should
the
have
team you're
trusted
talking about
myself.
for a second.
That's okay. You have to register a squad 1 to 22 numbered that way. No number belongs to any one person. That is the beauty of football, and it always will be 1 through 23 on the back of a jersey at international level, no matter who wears the jersey. So I don't know if any of you guys have an opinion on this, but obviously we saw the clip of Caitlin Torpy kind of vocalizing her kind of
Her worry.
worry. I was going to say grievance, but it wasn't a grievance. It was definitely a worry of wearing 20 on debut for the Matildas. I think she did a pretty damn good job. Considering it was her debut, there wasn't much happening in that first half, but when she got the ball at her feet, she did a pretty damn good job. So, thoughts on the squad announcement drama when people realize that 20 goes to somebody else?
I'll let
Cody, you're
Michelle go
laughing at
first
me.
on this one.
No, people are idiots, honestly. Go get your brains checked. Go touch some grass. Like, it's just a number. Numbers don't belong to anybody. And also, I think the biggest point is that Samco doesn't care. Sam's there for the team. She's there to play a game. And at the moment, she can't. So, yeah, people are acting like Sam's died and we have to retire the number. Like, it's all right, guys. Sam will be back wearing the 20s soon enough. But for now, Caitlin Torpy needs to have a number. And
Yeah.
it was the number that she was given.
I think it's funny because we're seeing the same thing in the US right now because Alex Morgan has come in to replace one of the players, and their rules, you have to take the number of the player that you're replacing, so she doesn't get to wear her regular 13. She has
I'll
to
also
wear 7.
say Alex Morgan's post was maybe a bit, maybe not the nicest post either. Yeah, it was a bit weird. Anyways, that's a different podcast. We're not a drama podcast.
Cody, your opinion on that kind of squad number announcement?
I got a few things I can say. First, I'm going to embarrass myself a little bit. I'll tell you a story from my childhood. It was the 2006 World Cup, I believe. I was 6-year-old. Didn't really know how football worked. Australia was playing Brazil in the Men's World Cup. Australia, obviously, being their away side, was wearing navy blue that day. I went through, I think it was about 60 minutes of that match before I turned to my parents and went, "Why is Tim Cahill playing for Brazil? He's not wearing the gold jersey." Before I realised Australia plays in an away kit and things change in football sometimes. So, thinking about how I was in my days as an oblivious and somewhat stupid child, I can honestly sympathise with some people when they don't always know how football works. It's a great learning opportunity. When it comes to international football, no one necessarily keeps a number. You're always going to have a squad numbered 1 to 23. You're never going to see a number 74 in international football to keep pace with other people's numbers. But the thing, so yeah, before I move on to that point, in that regard, I can kind of see why people are confused. Saying, Sam Kerr's number 20, why is someone else wearing number 20? It's a learning opportunity for them, as long as they're not sitting there and complaining that someone else is wearing it, which I know some people have. Personally, I don't care. I'm happy to explain the issue to them. Treating it that, having a go at Caitlin Torby for it, that's the part where I sit there and go, come on, like, this is a young kid coming into a side. She's been given a number. It's not really been her choice. Like, cut us a slack a little bit.
See, I've seen lots of those comments of people just being like, "That's Sam's number. It should be reserved for Sam." I've seen lots of those, and I'm like, bro, relax.
For me, it's a 50-50 split. But like I said, the first part I can sympathise with because I was once an oblivious football fan as well. Mind you, though, I was 6. The last part that I probably have an actual grievance with is, if you're taking Sam Kerr's number, there's a fair bit of pressure that comes behind it. Naturally, considering who your successor is, even though she will return to it at one stage or another. I know it's a minor thing to have a go at, but why give it to the debutant? Like, you could probably give it to someone who, even if it's not necessarily a starting member because they'll have their numbers already, maybe give it to someone with a little bit more experience. Maybe give it to Cooney Cross. I don't know. I just felt a little bit weird for Caitlin Thorpe in that situation. Like, there's enough pressure on her being a debut already. Why then go, okay, we're going to give you arguably our greatest player ever in our history's number, and you're going to fill those boots today. It's just a little bit harsh, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's probably a good learning lesson, guys, that what you post on social media can potentially end up in the eyes of the players, because Caitlin from the clip
to be fair, speaking on that video, it sounded like that was her conversation before people even knew about the number or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it was beforehand.
I mean,
she knew what was coming, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, so just one of those things that be careful on socials, because we've got to look after people, especially our young guns coming through. But yeah, all right. Let's move on from that drama to how we lined up. We're going to step through this game because it was a little, like, obviously there was a lot of not even a little. It was a big meltdown on social media when everyone realized Caitlin Ford wasn't starting. Purely just because of load management. That happens. We have seen enough injuries that we don't need to be throwing people into the fray. Caitlin ended up coming on and making a huge impact in the game. But how did you see this starting 11 and this formation, Michelle? What was your opinions on it when you saw it drop, and even right through the game? Did you think it worked? Was it the right thing? Again, for those listening at home, we are not qualified coaches or tacticians. We only go off what we saw and provide our opinions on said things. Michelle, take it away.
Well, when I first saw it, I was like, I hate this graphic. Why do they keep going with this block graphic? It is terrible. With all my love to the Matildas team, please change your graphic so we can at least see the formation properly. It's terrible. Anyways, yeah, at first I was very confused. I was like, what is this formation? What are we doing here? And then I realized that we were playing Emily Van Egmond as a forward. And I was like, oh, this is fine. You know, like that meme of the dog in the flaming house. Yeah. I think when you look at it on paper, it's a really good lineup, right? Caitlin Torpy on the wing, Mary Fowler up front, Cooney Cross and Minnie in the middle. Like it's all relatively good. I just think that they did not play very well. I think this lineup had a lot of hope, and it had all the makings to be very good. I just don't think it was executed. And I don't know if it was the conditions. I don't know if the pitch was, good and not slippery. I don't know if it was because they were playing in the snow or whatnot, but it just wasn't working for them. Hayley Raso couldn't string a pass, and she was getting angry at like every 2 seconds, it seemed. I was like, oh my God, why are you so angry? Please relax, or you're going to get, booked. Emily Van Egmond had probably the worst game of her life. Mary Fowler was pretty quiet for the most part. Obviously, she got a goal, which was good. Again, it's not a position that she would normally play in, and the same with Emily Van Egmond. It's not like their normal positioning. So it's like, why did we start with that and not have our striker or our, the person who plays as a striker, Michelle Heyman? Why was she on the bench for most of the game? Because when she came off the bench, she obviously got us the opening goal, and I think kind of changed the momentum of the game. I don't know. I think it was, for me, I didn't see enough of Caitlin Torpy to kind of have, much of an opinion. I think, overall a good, a good debut, 45 minutes. But yeah, it was needed to put in Caitlin Ford, someone with a bit more experience, especially when, it's still 0-0 at the half and things. You kind of need someone who's, maybe known to score a goal. And obviously she didn't score until like right at the end, but there's a bit more experience in that. I would like to see Caitlin Torpy playing some more. I think, she's in that squad for a reason, and she's obviously been named in the 22 for a reason. So, I think overall, not a good game. Not much to say on the defenders. I think Steph Catley had a great game.
Yeah.
I don't think Ellie Carpenter should be player of the match.
Very fair. Just for those of you that were confused like me after seeing Caitlin Torpy, obviously as defender for Melbourne City, to then play on the wing. Michelle and I did have this conversation off air. She does actually play as a winger for the 23s team, and that's why that has transitioned across. And I when she was on the ball, she did good. More time in that role is probably going to help her settle in, but good to see a fresh face. Cody, your thoughts? I know you were at a wedding, but we were giving you the updates when we could. Having a look at it on paper now, what are your opinions, knowing the outcome as well? Do you have anything to add in here?
First of all, trying to keep up with notifications was difficult. I was trying to work out why I was receiving nothing from FootMob, and then I just realised, oh, wait, we're just simply not scoring. And then I don't check my phone for 20, and then it's like, oh, we won 3-0. So that was a pleasant surprise when that came through, at least. But honest, in a way, it kind of turned out how I expected it.
Yeah.
Not great viewing at all. Bit of a grind, bit of a, you got to do what you got to do to kind of get through. But we ended up overpowering them, and then with a, I guess, convincing result in the end. Maybe not a convincing performance, but I'm never going to complain about a 3-0 win. Look, going to Central Asia is always going to be a difficult thing to do. We see it with the Socceroos all the time. They go to those countries, and even when it's a side that we should be, if we were playing them in Australia, we'd beat them by 4, 5, 6 goals. We tend to struggle. Maybe you don't even get a result. We'll draw or lose. It's a very tough place to go. You go on. There's substandard conditions, substandard pitches, weather and climate's always different. You talk about Hayley Raso getting frustrated. I'll be honest, I didn't see it, mainly because I didn't watch the game in as much detail as you two. But I wouldn't be surprised when you're going from England, where they make sure everything's pristine, weather's a bit cooler, it's better conditions suited for football. And then you go to Uzbekistan. It is a little bit hot. They're not maintaining pitches as well as what they do in Europe or in Australia. And overall, it's a little bit of a shit experience to play football in. Those players that aren't used to that end up struggling. So I'm not surprised about the comments that I've seen after this game that, oh, what the hell's going on? We should be beating this team. We should be smacking them. Why haven't we? After you've watched a lot of Asian football, you start to not just realize what it's like to go over there, but you kind of expect it to. In saying that, I can still understand the frustration and share the frustration, because we're a good side, and there's an expectation around the Brazilians now to assert themselves as a dominant team when they play.
Yeah.
So We'll see it when they come to Melbourne. I think that'll be a bit more of a dominant game. But the parts that Michelle, I'm going to just kind of jump on the points that you made because they're the best points that I think I could talk about now. Because, like I said, I haven't watched the game in an overly large amount of detail. Yes, she plays as a winger in the under-23 setup. She played as a striker for Preston Lions. I know she can be an attacking outlet. I still think her best position's at the back. You've got a debutant taking a number that's putting enough pressure on her, and then on top of that, you're putting her out of position. They haven't really set her up for success in this match, but from what I could see, she had some good touches on the ball. She's able to get herself in good positions. Probably could have scored as well. Maybe nerves stopped her from taking a shot when she had a pretty good chance on goal and decided to play it across to Van Egmond, and then the chances kind of disappeared. That's nerves. I'm not going to sit here happy and say, oh my gosh, she should have scored that. How dare she miss? Look, she probably should have, but that's not my responsibility. It is what it is. It's the first game. I'll cut her a bit of slack.
Yeah.
If she does it after 100, then maybe we can have some conversations. But that's the thing that you can kind of look past. At the end of the day, we got the result. It is what it is. You talk about not playing with a striker in our formation as well. I'm not surprised Michelle Heyman didn't start this game, mainly because she was re-entering the side, reintegrating. You're probably going to go with someone that's had a bit more recent experience. You've got either Fowler or Van Egmond. Looked like Van Egmond was kind of sitting as a lone 9 with Fowler sitting a little bit deeper. From what I could see, at least, I could be a little bit wrong in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've kind of learnt that, we kind of need to play with a number 9. We found a way to make it work in the World Cup. Playing against side like Uzbekistan, where they are going to sit deep. Think back to the World Cup as well. The one game it didn't really work was against Nigeria and how they play. They sat 9-10 players behind the ball and were trying to catch us in the counter, but they were set up resolute very well defensively. We always knew Uzbekistan were going to set up the same way. We probably needed a different plan to what works against maybe, say, a Canada or maybe not even Ireland, Denmark, or those types of games.
Yeah.
In that regard, moving forward, we see Michelle Heyman can do it at Matilda's level still. I'd expect her to be starting come Wednesday night. But I'll give Tony some grace for making that call in this game. Substitution seemed to work well. Caitlin Ford was able to come in. She was able to impact the game very well. Michelle Heyman was able to come in. She impacted the game very well. It looked like once those subs were made, we were able to get a bit more freedom going forward. And that's what you need in these types of games. You're playing against a resolute backline. They're playing in their home ground. I know the crowd wasn't exactly an intimidating atmosphere or anything like that, but this is a historic game for Uzbekistan. They'd be pumped up on adrenaline. They would have been defending for their lives, and from what I could say, they were. Mind you, probably should have been up 2-0 at half time, but that's another conversation we can have later on. We probably needed a bit of experience to get that through as well. I know Tony used the rhetoric of load management. I'm going to be honest, it's a phrase that I'm kind of getting sick of hearing. You go into games like this and need to make decisions that are best for your team and make decisions that are best for the game coming up. You want to rest her in Melbourne. This is probably the more important game, if anything. I'd be doing my best to get a side on as good as possible. Now, I don't know if there were any immediate injury concerns. If there was, I'm happy to retract that statement. But we probably needed a bit of experience going into that game, or at least a bit of know-how in those situations. You talk about Caitlin Torpy as well. Yes, she played well. She's still a young player. She's still not going to be used to that kind of pressure, that kind of situation. Playing her out wide in a position that was going to be key to this match in a game like that probably wasn't the wisest decision. Saying that, though, I am having a mental blank about who I probably would have put there instead if Caitlin Ford was unavailable.
I'll give you a name, Sophie Harding.
See?
Well, she's not in the squad.
I know, but if you know you're going to bench Caitlin for that first game, right? When you submit the squad,
I got a question, Josh. Do you want me to have this conversation now or later? Because I've got an opinion on this.
No, let's go into it now. That's fine.
Sorry, Michelle. I'm going to take the floor away from you for a little bit longer.
Okay then.
But with Sophie Harding, I can see that they're just going for it. It actually goes against what I was saying before. They probably were going for the more experienced players in this game. They didn't want Sophie Harding, who came in late to the squad, in the actual matchday squad. I'd argue we should be a bit braver with our decisions in situations like this. We're fighting for a position at the Olympics. We're going up against a side that is significantly inferior to us, on paper at least. On a match day, you never know what's going to happen. Do we need 4 centre-backs in a squad? Because we're only going to play 2. And the reality is, unless a freak sequence of injuries occurs, we're not going to sub 2 into a match. We'd be lucky to sub in 1. Do we need 2 on the bench? in my opinion, you stock up on attackers. That way, if you end up in the situation that we did where Caitlin Ford's underdone 1, and 2, we do go a large part of the match where we're struggling to score, and we need maybe something different, maybe a bit of dynamism. Sophie Harding provides that. I know I said it to you last week. I had a kind of a massive rant, and looking back on it, it's a bit weird about why she should start. But I 100% would be backing her to come in and impact that game.
I'm just saying, like, if you're going to throw a debutant in there and put a debutant, yes, they played in the Young Matilda setup, right? But you've got a winger that's in form coming from the league who plays out wide. If you're going to debut someone, sure, like this Ford thing could have come in 3 days after they had to submit the squad or whatever.
It's an interesting one because Sophie Harding does do her best work as a number 9. She can play as a wide player. I've never really been a fan of her as a wide player. But in this system, we could have seen something different. Got great creative players behind her. Yeah. It could come into a bit of a sense of positioning play where, yeah, she's listed as a winger, but she's coming into the half space a lot more. She's getting in the same areas as she would at the Wanderers anyway. If you're playing a system like that, yeah, 100%, she'd probably be good as a wide player. Like I said as well, the times that I've watched her as a winger, she hasn't exactly been in great squads, to say the least. That Newcastle Jets side of a few years back and the Wanderers side of last season, I can't say were great testaments to what you can judge a player on because both those sides weren't very good. But it comes back to squad selection. I wouldn't mind us being a bit braver and going, hey, yeah, Sophie Harding's new to the squad. She hasn't got experience in Matilda setup before, but this is a game that could suit her strengths. I don't care if Polkinghorne has 100 plus caps or if Avi Lewis still a current Champions League player. We don't need 4 centre backs. Let's sit out one of them and have a player on the bench that, even if we don't use, is still going to be of use to us. For all we know, the game goes either two ways. Uzbekistan were definitely not going to beat us by 4 or 5 goals, and we were going to need to go in a damage limitation. So it's either we go out, we play really, really well, and we're smacking them, and the reality is we don't need to bring on so many defensive subs to hold out the game, or Uzbekistan get a cheap goal against us, defend for their lives, and we need to bring on forwards to try and impact the game and get us ahead, or it's a 0-0 stalemate, which is what happened, and we need attackers to come on and try and get us ahead. There's no real scenario that's coming to my head that requires us to have the need to bring on 2 centre-backs, unless, like I said, we have a freak sequence of injuries.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I wouldn't mind seeing us be a little bit braver in going, you know what, I don't care what this person's reputation is. Throw her in there, throw her on the bench. She gets on. If she doesn't, so be it. But she's definitely more use on the bench than what an Avi Lewis or a Claire Polkinghorne. There's no disrespect to them, but it's the nature of their positions. No one likes touching a centre-back pairing.
Avi did end up coming on too.
Did Claire?
No.
There we go. We didn't need her on the bench.
Michelle, you mentioned conditions too. How much do you reckon going from doing camp in Dubai to 0 degrees and snowing probably had an effect, considering we were flying in for the game, flying back out that night, not spending any time in Uzbekistan?
I got to apologise. It was snowing during the game. I'll take my comment back about the climate then. Although then again, it might be a little bit colder than what... It snows in England all the time. I'll take that part back.
It was minus degrees, and coming out of camp in Dubai, definitely did have some form of effect flying into that for 12 hours and back out again. Coming home, Michelle, what would you like to see done to this starting 11? You mentioned Michelle Heyman up front. I think that is a must. We need to go in with a 9 that is a proven one that can get there and be a target. What other things would you like to see change?
Well, for starters, Emily Van Egmond on the bench. I'm sorry to Emily Van Egmond and all of her fans, but we need to move on. I think the Matildas have moved on for the need of Emily Van Egmond. She hasn't, in my personal opinion, hasn't proven herself to me in recent years. And the annoying thing is that what she does is she'll score an absolute worldie and will maintain her spot, and then will continue to make mistakes in the midfield. I think we're better off with Cooney Cross and Gorry in the midfield. I think that's a pretty solid pairing. I do wonder as well if they will rest Minnie, because she's played quite a lot in England recently, and obviously the travel is a lot. I Now, here's one. I would like to see Jada make her debut. I know it's an Olympic qualifier, and I know it's pretty much like, a must-win game. But like, I just think we've won 3-0 against Uzbekistan. If you just chuck on Caitlin Ford, Mary Fowler, who else do we have? I reckon put on Chloe Lagazo. That's it. Like, you've got goals, okay? Goals galore will come, especially playing in Melbourne, in front of all the fans. So I reckon just put on Jada Wyman. Give her a start. Let her have some fun out there. Or at least in the next friendly fixture, Jada should get at least 45 in the next friendly. I did like that Charlie Grant got to go on the field. I didn't like that it was at the 90th minute and she played like 2 minutes. I think if we're going to sub Ellie off for rest, then you might want to do it earlier. Like, if it's load management, like, why not sub her off at least at the 80th? I think overall it's fine. I think if you start Michelle Heyman and Caitlin Ford, you're looking at a much stronger lineup. But yeah, I think the two up front isn't necessarily doing what we need. And I don't think Mary Fowler is best suited as a forward as well. I think her best position is playing as a 10 and being our creative sort of player and getting those balls in. I just don't think it's working for us. At least it didn't appear to be working for us. And like I said, it could just be that the conditions were just not suited to them. Like, we can always argue, but they should be used to it by now. They play in cold weather. Playing in England is not the same as playing in snowing Uzbekistan. Okay, different cultures, different
altitude
climates.
comes into it as well, wouldn't it?
Probably. I'm not sure what the altitude level is in.
I think it's higher in
Takesh.
But that's a guess as well. I'm not a geography expert.
Clearly. Someone said it was hot over there. Cody.
Honestly, look, I'm used to, when it comes to East Asian, Central Asian games, usually they're like boiling and ridiculously hot. I'm kind of forgetting where Uzbekistan is on the map. But even then, cold weather, high altitude, after a training camp in Dubai, you are feeling a climate effect.
Yeah, I think the Dubai thing was a question mark as well. Like, why go to Dubai if you're going to be playing in cold weather? I don't know. It just seems a bit silly to me. But that's probably what it is.
Just to kind of get everyone in, get them together. We're with the 20s as well, which I think that's actually a brilliant experience for the 20s to be right near the Matildas' first team squad right before they've got to go to a major tournament. I actually think for them it's actually really, really good. But you're preparing for an Olympic qualifier, you got to think about that game individually as well. Especially,
like, if we're going from one extreme to the other. Like, they're going, I guess Melbourne's not too extreme, but like, you're going from middle of winter to then middle of summer in Melbourne, and like, even that is a climate, like, it's a huge climate difference. And I'm not sure how much impact that'll play. It'll probably be better for them, actually, a bit more suited to that sort of weather. And then if we do qualify, I'm sure we will. Then they have to prepare for playing in middle of summer Paris. So I think this playing in Melbourne is probably a bit better for them to acclimatise to that, and I'm sure they will be. It's Paris. It's not going to be crazy. But yeah, on your point on Sophie Harding, I would like to. I reckon, and in the same sense of Jada as well, I think, watching them play in a friendly would be really good, and I think they deserve to be playing in that sort of fixture. Jada more so because she's been in and around the camps quite a bit, and she's not having the greatest season with Sydney, to be honest. But I'd love to see her finally step out onto the field, and I think that would be great. And I'd love to see Sophie Harding playing for the Matildas, but in a friendly. I don't think that playing her as a winger would be a good option. I think, she's playing as a 9 at the Wanderers, and I think in the same sense of what you were saying about Torpy, why do we have to switch them up when they're so used to playing one position? And I get that there are circumstances where that needs to happen. I just don't think, maybe these sorts of national team situations are
The
ideal.
Best place.
Yeah.
Just to fact check everybody, there is 400 meters of elevation difference between London and Tashkent. Tashkent is higher. And on the weather, we're going from playing in minus 0 flat in Tashkent to it's going to be 34 degrees at 7 p.m. in Melbourne.
That sounds more like a Dubai preparation.
Yeah, so maybe Tony was looking a little further forward than Tashkent. Maybe he was like, cool, if we come out of here with 1 goal, we're cool. We've got to have everyone ready for 34
To
degrees.
be fair, they did like fly out pretty much the day after or like that night. And I think they pretty much packed up and left because they landed.
Got straight on the plane, yeah.
Yeah, so probably wasn't the most ideal situation, but I do really think that Michelle Heyman is a must to be starting in the next game.
I 100% agree.
If we want goals, Michelle Heyman has to start.
Yeah. Okay. So I did have a line of questioning that I've completely forgotten. That's okay. We have put out on our socials that we wanted some questions from you guys, and you guys have answered. So I'm going to put that to our pundits over here to give us their thoughts on what you guys are seeing. Someone made the same comment about playing EVE up front, that it needs to stop. We've agreed with you. That is okay, Lily. We're on your team. Let's look at Samwise. Someone, he's come in saying thoughts on putting Torpy up front instead of the likes of having Seamson in the squad or anything like that. We've kind of touched on this, but Remy's just been in the squad recently, been on the field, similar positions, things like that. That's a really good point there, is someone like that that's been in and around the squad that is proven in that role. Do you think that was good for Remy? Obviously, it could be other things
Remy
there as well.
Is a great player, but I'm pretty sure she's played 74 minutes this season in total. Yes, she's had injuries. She got injured before the season started, or like as the season started, and that's hindered her quite a bit. It was quite a lengthy injury.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I would love to see Remy back in the squad. Absolutely. I'm Remy's number one fan. But, you know, if she's not playing, like, on what basis can they, select her for a national team? Like, I think sometimes we forget that, like, national team is the highest honor. Like, this should be, like, the biggest privilege, and it should be given to the best players, to represent your nation. Like, this isn't club football. Like, to be selected for the national team, in my opinion, you need to be playing week in, week out. You need to be proving why you're on the national team representing your country. And I think, as much as I love Remy, I think Leicester's a really, not a good spot for her to be at the moment. I'd love to see her, maybe if she goes out on loan, comes back to the A-League, or, plays, in another country or something. I just think that for Remy, it's maybe not the best situation for her. And this is the problem she had in Sweden as well. Just like, she's just not getting the minutes. I think at one point, like, Leicester played her as a midfielder as well, which, it's great that she can be more versatile. And I think that's going to be very handy for her. But if it's not working, it's not working. Yeah. And she's not playing. So, yeah, I just think it would be great to see Remy back. But I don't think it's going to happen if she's not getting the minutes.
Yeah. Aiden said that he was concerned about our inability to break down the defense. Cody, you touched on this earlier, that we were kind of expecting that low block kind of situation where they play nearly every single person behind the ball and try to hit us on a counter. We do see this a lot in Asia. We saw it against Nigeria, as you mentioned. Do you reckon Uzbekistan change up their style of play going into this next game, being that they have to chase down 3 goals, to play a little less counterattacking and be on the front foot but leave the back open?
No, and that's mainly because if they do that, they'll cop about 7 or 8 goals. It's when it comes to those sides as well, and I say this with as little disrespect as possible, even though it's going to be a big slap in the face, that it's not just about a way to try and win a game for them, it's also about trying not to be embarrassed. Yeah. You look at, let's just say the Philippines. Philippines are arguably, they're a more higher quality side than what Uzbekistan are. But if they come out and try and play good football against a side that's clearly superior to them, they can get smacked 7 or 8-0. You saw it against the Matildas. That's a side with some quality players in it. Uzbekistan aren't even at that level. If they try and come out against us, we'll hit double digits. And I'm not even saying that as a smart ass. I'm saying that with almost guaranteed certainty. To an extent, they genuinely need to sit back and just make sure, okay, let's just try and not concede too many goals, and then maybe we'll be able to get forward and score 1 or 2. And that's probably being a bit gracious. So, no, I don't expect to see anything different from them. We'll be facing the exact same problem. We'll be facing a side that will do everything in their power to frustrate us. Unfortunately, Matilda's fans that got on the bandwagon during the World Cup were blessed because they saw us playing against some of the best nations in the world, where they were trying to play football against us too, and it was some of the best football you could watch. If I was not a football lover watching those games, I would fall in love with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, this is the nitty-gritty stuff that we need to go through to be able to get to those games, where we've got to go through some absolute shit fights. We've got to go through your Irans. We've got to go through your Chinese Taipei's, where they are incredibly hard to break down simply because they play with 11 defenders and no strikers. And they come from cultures where they are happy to defend with their lives because it's not just sport for them, it's genuinely a passion, it's a way of life. They're playing against cultures that, like even Uzbekistan, there's a good football culture in that country. I don't know how good it is with the women's, but you look at how their men's football's going, they're on a good trajectory. Football's prevalent in that country. Football's not prevalent in this country. So we play against a side like that. As much as they don't have the talent, there's a passion, there's a will to almost die for your country that I don't know if we 100% have here. That's probably the only thing they have on us, because in every other possible aspect, we are better than them. So that's why they try and turn it into a shit fight, because you turn it into something like that, you never know, maybe they come out on top. But we'll have to go through the same thing again.
Yeah.
You need to bring on some players that are maybe a little bit more unpredictable and a little bit more assertive in situations like that, where they're happy to play through a low block, where they're happy to play in tight spaces. You look at someone like Michelle Heyman, she's a guaranteed finisher. She can finish with players on her back. She can finish with a couple of players in front of her. She's good in the air. She's good with her feet. She's genuinely a complete forward. There's not many aspects of her game that maybe she's not as fast as what she once was, but she's probably still faster than the Uzbekistan defenders, let's be real. Then on top of that, she'll be good in the air. She'll be good from distance. There's different ways you can unlock that back line with her in the lineup. You bring Caitlin Ford in. She's unpredictable. She's a good dribbler. She's good with 2 or 3 players around her. She can get out of those tight spaces. That'll be a good option to have. And then Hayley Rasso, she'll run people ragged. Even if it's a thing of 60 minutes, you have her running up and down the line, tiring out a fullback. And then you bring someone on with a little bit of pace that can maybe bring in that added quality in the front third as well. There's options that we have going into this game that can help us to unlock a back line like that a little bit better. And I say this as well, one thing that we've got to consider, I know we've spoken about Emily Van Egmond, and it probably wasn't her best game, but there were opportunities that any other striker scores. We're up 1 or 2-0 earlier in that game. Who knows what happens after that? So, look, football's a funny game in that regard as well. We score 1 goal early, we're not having this conversation, even though it probably is a relevant conversation.
I mean, but to be fair, just sorry to interrupt, but Emily Van Egmond has been on like the back foot for a very long time. Like, this isn't a new conversation that's been had. People have been saying this for years. Like, Emily Van Egmond has been one of those players where it's like, why are you in the squad when you cannot turn around? There's been moments, I think there was a moment, it could have been in the World Cup, where all she had to do was turn around and pass the ball back to an open space player who was completely unmarked, and we would have had a better chance at goal. Instead, she didn't turn around, we lost possession of the ball, and we missed a chance at least a shot on goal. And I think, and that's just one moment that I can visibly remember in the last year. And I think that is why these conversations are happening.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I've never seen anything that warrants her being dropped from the squad altogether. I'll say if we have a full strength squad, for me, she wouldn't start. I think that's probably it. She's one that's kind of petering on the side, but then again, we've got young players coming through after the Olympics. I'd be surprised if she's still a mainstay like she is now. Like I said, when it comes to the situation we're in, I'm not surprised she was given the start. You make that decision, you make your bed, you lie in it. Moving forward, though, we've got someone that can come in, play that role, play as an actual 9. And the reality is, if we need to move to a centre forward again, maybe we go with the likes of Mary Fowler or Amy Sayer. Even we haven't spoken about her in conversation, even though she'd probably bring that same impact, and she's 10 years younger. Even Chloe Lagaza, she's in a bit of form. can play that role, maybe she would have been an option as well. So
Yeah.
we've got other options there. I'm not going to die on a hill saying that Emily Van Egmond needs to be in the squad forever, but I'm not going to be as passionate about her being dropped from the squad completely. I don't know if I 100% would go down that path. I can see the argument. I don't know if I'm going to go with said argument. I think that's the best way I can describe it. But there's little things that if they go our way, we're not having this conversation. There's also little things that we can do to make sure it goes our way and we don't have this conversation again in the reality. So we'll see a difference. We'll see a different lineup hopefully when it comes to Melbourne. I think we'll see us get on the board a little bit quicker. As much as it's going to be a big game for Uzbekistan, a big historic game for them, I don't think they'll have played in front of a crowd of 55,000 people. So I hope they take that experience as for what it is, and it's something that they'll be able to tell their grandchildren about in reality. But that could also be an overbearing atmosphere for them, and one they could really, really struggle in. So that could even play in our favour as well.
That's right. It'll be just as quiet.
To be fair, I remember being at Melbourne for the Canada game. That was fantastic. That was actually
but think about where that was.
Amy Park.
Exactly.
Fantastic football facility.
Exactly.
Yeah, look, active support turn up. I do apologise. I can't exactly just get out of work for every single game that's being played, but I hope those guys turn up in numbers as well, those guys and girls, because they were fantastic to watch the World Cup with. Obviously, Michelle, you're a big part of that, but
they will do their absolute best, but it'll be everyone around them as well.
Hopefully they put them at the back of a base so no one's complaining about them standing up.
Mate.
We'll see. That's a conversation for a different day, Cody.
That's an hour in itself.
Isn't it just?
So we go from 0 degrees with 2,500 fans in Central Asia to 34 degrees with 55,000 here at home this week, folks. It's going to be great. One of the last questions, a lot of people were wondering what Macca was doing. We saw it. She was jumping around trying to keep herself warm. That's all she was doing. She had one shot to kind of really worry about. Yeah, they showed her jumping around doing star jumps and trying to stay warm, but in that kind of temperature doing absolutely nothing. That's pretty much all she was an ice block.
Just on, sorry to interrupt you,
that's okay.
Mr. Josh. But just on like the breaking down the defense, I don't think we needed to worry too much about them. Like I think we were fine, like breaking through pretty well.
It was just the finishing.
They didn't really have much of a defense, to be honest. With all due respect to Uzbekistan, but we had 27 shots and only 9 on target, and I think that is more of an issue. So I think it was the finishing that was the issue. We were in the final third. We had the whole game. Like we had, like just quickly looking at some of these stats. We had 562 passes, 71% possession, pass accuracy of 85%. We even had more fouls than them. We had 9 fouls. We had 12
Is that
corners.
What fouls we won or committed?
Committed.
Oh, fuck. How do we commit more fouls than them?
Oh, if you watch the game, they were on the ground quite a bit. It was one of those sorts of games.
Oh,
but like,
it wasn't as bad as Chinese Taipei, but it was
it was
the
close.
Iran game.
That was
the
Iran
that's the one.
game.
The Iran game.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as that.
But it was similar. But yes, so we had the game. You know, the game was ours. It was just our finishing or lack thereof that was apparent. So I think realistically...
a question, Michelle. You're obviously our stats person. Do you have a map of where those shots were taken? Shot map of where we're taking shots from?
On Opta Jason, there may have been... Oh, no, actually, I don't think they've posted anything about it. But they did share a little graph of... they do have a lot of the shots. And there was a majority of them were in...
We're in the box?
We're in the box.
Yeah, that speaks to your point then. It's a clinical issue. And that's kind of what I was trying to lean to as well. I could see, even from what I saw, well, creating chances, we'll get in the box. It was probably more of a finishing issue. So it's a final third issue disguised, or it's another issue disguised as a final third issue. We're actually kind of breaking them down, all right then. But
yeah,
you can get in those positions. You never know. They might still be putting a bit of pressure on us. There's still a lot of numbers around. Even if you're getting in the box, doesn't necessarily mean you got a clear shot of goal at the end of the day.
No, of
so
course.
In that regard, yeah, some of the changes that we've been talking about, bringing in a proper number 9, having Caitlin Ford started, probably still fixes that. But yeah, maybe the issue was a bit more clinical rather than tactical.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, that is our hot take on game number 1, folks. We are going to keep this one short because we are doing a double show week for you. We were going to try and keep this to half an hour. We're 15 minutes over, but for us, that's pretty good.
You got me and Michelle here, man. We ain't going in half an hour.
So how this is going to work is you guys are going to hear this episode on Tuesday. If you are listening, make sure you're checking out, if you're a fan of our goalkeepers, the goalkeeper jerseys will release on Football Australia's website tomorrow. So make sure you're listening, checking that out on Wednesday for anyone that wants to support the goalkeepers with their jersey, which I'm super excited to see. It's going to be cool. But we are back playing in Melbourne Wednesday night. I think it's an 8 p.m. kickoff again. Am I right? I am right. Look at me go. 8 p.m. You will find that on Paramount and 10 Plus again. For those struggling with the stream, I have found that 10 Plus has a better strength of stream than Paramount. So maybe double check that out if you guys struggled like I did this week.
That could also be because the stream was coming from Uzbekistan.
So
it's not Channel 10.
And it definitely wasn't high definition at
I mean,
all.
we saw how it was in the AFC Women's Club Championship.
I still don't understand why people think that we have Channel 10 cameras set up in Uzbekistan. You guys, they send us a stream that we put on the TV. Remember Canada? Yeah. Okay. It's not us.
So we will have our own cameras, which will be great. So 8 p.m. Wednesday, game 2 to qualify for the Olympics. Actually, before we go any further, let's touch on the other game that's happening in Asia. North Korea held Japan to a 0 draw for leg 1, which is going to be very interesting. They are playing concurrently with us. They start, I think, half an hour after our kickoff. I think they kick off at 8:31 or something random like that. So that'll be a very interesting game to kind of keep a score check on. Meanwhile, Spain have qualified for the Olympics as well over in Europe as they defeated Netherlands and France beat Germany. So now Netherlands and Germany will play in the third playoff match because France is already qualified to see who comes through from Europe. I think that's all the updates from the Olympics around the world as well. So we'll be back with leg 2 for your ears Friday. We will also cover everything that's going to come up in the coming week in the A-League and everything like that. Do we go straight back to games that weekend?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Weekend.
Let's go, ring the bell. So we will see you guys later this week with hopefully a celebratory podcast as we hopefully can pack our bags for Paris. Thank you, and we'll be back next week. Bye. Good job, guys.
So I was looking at more of those stats. Thanks up to Jason. Thanks, company I work for.
That's why I asked you. I had a feeling you'd have, if anyone was going to have it, it would have been you.
Yeah, I mean, I can always ask them as well. Can you send me stats from the Uzbekistan game, please? But Steph Catley made 15 passes, ending in the final third, with an accuracy of 100%.